Welcome back to the Stay Broke podcast. Today we're joined by Runbin Dong, a Triangle-based founder and the creator of Scale Social AI. He's helping business owners use artificial intelligence to turn content into a scalable asset instead of a daily headache. We're talking systems, automation, and how small teams can now compete at a much higher level. If you're trying to grow without burning out, this one's for you. Runbin, welcome to the Stay Broke podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you taking your time. I'm super excited about this one. I've been telling people about this one. I've always been kind of like anti-technology my whole life, and I feel like it held me back a lot. I missed the internet boom back in the day. I stayed away from the computers, but this time I'm not missing it. I've been diving headfirst into AI and trying to understand it, but there's so much out there, and like it's hard to know where to begin, what's real, what's not. There's new programs coming out every day, so I'm hoping you can give us a little bit of insight today. But first, we'd like to just start with who you are, where you're from, where you grew up.
Yeah, I was originally from China. I grew up in a fishing village in a province called Fujian. It's on the southeast coast of China, right across from Taiwan. In the early days, a lot of our villagers actually used to strap a tire onto themselves and kind of just swim across the strait. Very adventurous culture.
Yeah.
But around age 11, I came to the States. My parents were running a restaurant at that point in time in Nashville, Tennessee. So I went to school in Nashville, went all the way through high school. And then upon graduation, I went to Duke for undergrad. Okay. I studied biomedical engineering. I was MD, PhD bound. I was a good student. And except that one time I got a D in organic chemistry, and I realized that I wasn't the smartest. But all that said, after graduation, I eventually joined IBM, and that was a very formative 6 years of my career.
Wow.
Just starting in consulting, eventually made my way into IBM Watson when the AI division was just getting started. And that was in the early days of what we call NLP, natural language processing. So it's a very early version of what you now see with ChatGPT.
Okay.
And my resume kind of goes on, but that was where I started my career.
All right. That was a lot to cover very quickly. How was your childhood? How was it in China? And like, what was your motivation to become what you've become today?
Oh, it's completely different. So as a child, I was always very academic, very introverted. And so, I think culturally speaking, and also a part of the family upbringing is, hey, if you do well in school, then you get a very good job, whether that's a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, or whatever it may be. That's very Asian.
Yeah.
And that sort of get compounded when I came to the States because, my parents were first generation immigrants. Okay. I was technically also first generation. And so, stability above everything else. But there were some family events that happened when I was in college that sort of took me completely outside of the realm of what I was considering. Okay. So decided that I'm not going to med school anymore, instead going into business. And so that path fundamentally changed my personality. I remember in the early days, we were doing this Myers-Briggs personality test. My archetype back then versus my archetype now is just night and day difference.
Yeah. What did your parents do for work in China and then when they got here?
Oh, my mom was a chef. So actually she used to cook for the CCP.
Okay.
It's crazy. I listen to her stories sometimes. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like you're constantly being evaluated and your like head is on the chopping block kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that drastic, but like you have to perform because you're in front of officials. So she's a chef and my dad is a naval officer.
Okay.
They got married and then eventually they decided that the life in the US is a lot more, it's more opportunity bound.
Sure.
And a lot of our people actually came over. So if you go to like a local Chinese restaurant and ask them where they're from, they'll probably say China. But if you ask them a little level deeper, like where specifically in China, they'll probably tell you, hey, they're from Fujian.
Okay. That's cool. How'd they feel about you switching from the medical field to the business field?
Oh, they couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, how could you give up like what we call like a golden bowl? Like you'll always have that job kind of thing. But like looking at where the technology and where the society is today, there's no longer this, hey, you can have a job for 50 years. Like that used to be a thing.
Yeah.
And especially in IBM, where I started my career, like a lifer or a lifetime IBMer was a thing.
Right.
But that, I mean, it's just not feasible anymore. In part of structural changes, in part how corporates act, and also in part like how talent gap is being exposed.
Yeah. I read somewhere when I was researching about your mom's influence and your drive, and something about you learning how to cook or to make dumplings with her or something. Mm-hmm. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so sort of continuation of my career, IBM startup, eventually made my way.
So that was later. Okay.
Oh, way later. Yeah.
Okay, then we'll save that for a little bit. So how was the university experience for you?
I had a fairly unconventional university time. So I thought that it was going to be setting me up for, med school and whatnot. And I recently wrote very openly about this on LinkedIn and my Substack, which is sort of a newsletter blogging system. But I think it was sophomore year of Duke. My parents were going through a divorce. They didn't eventually they did not finalize the divorce. They're still together, but it was a period of time where they were trying to figure out their relationship. But it got very angry, very ugly, very emotionally filled. I have 2 younger sisters.
Okay.
They were much younger than me. And so there was a point in time where they're like, hey, we're going to separate the girls. One will take one and then the other will take the other. And against all advice, I was like, no, that's not acceptable. So overnight, I drove back home, picked up the girls. And so from Duke to Nashville, and then picked them up and then came back to Duke. And I was living in a sort of a dorm at that point in time. And so the girls actually stayed with me for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then university found out and they're like, no, that's not possible. It's not legal.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You're not their legal guardianship. And so I actually had to go to court and get the legal guardianship for the girls. Okay. So my university is very unconventional. I wasn't a part of fraternity or sorority. No, definitely not sorority, but not part of fraternity. I always had 2 little girls with me.
Yeah.
At many times of the university sort of life. And
now, was that a thing that helped you stay focused or a distraction?
It's hard.
Yeah.
Right. And also in part, you're playing the student and you're trying to get very good grades. You have career aspirations and you have all these classes. I was triple major bound. I wanted to take as many classes as I wanted. And so eventually I had to drop these majors one by one, and being a parent. And we were in Durham. And so I wanted the best schools for the girls. So we had to move off campus to East Franklin Street in Chapel Hill.
Okay.
And I still remember the apartment we rented at that point in time. And I slept on the floor for all those years.
How were you paying for the apartment? Were your parents helping you, or did you have to figure it out?
I had to figure out most of it. I was very fortunate because I went to Duke on a full ride, and it was sponsored by Bill and Melinda Gates.
Oh, nice.
And so and I owe Duke so much, right? So when Duke found out about this whole situation, they actually went back to Bill and Melinda and asked for additional stipends.
Okay.
And they issued the stipends, which made our life a lot easier, especially with the cost of living with 2 additional girls and living off campus.
Wow, that's a lot to deal with in college.
It's a lot.
And I get it. I can actually relate to this. I don't talk a lot about myself and stuff I went through, but a very similar thing happened to me when I was 12 and I got left with 2 girls. And for almost a year, where adults were coming in and out, and so I can completely relate to what that was like. But it's just when that time happens, is you just got to do what you got to do because it's your family and they depend on somebody. So at the time, I was the only one for them to depend on and had to step up. So I get it.
Yeah, you've got to be the pillar that holds up everything else.
Yeah. So did they stay with you? How long did they stay with you for?
All the way until I graduated.
Oh, really?
And I took the IBM job in part out of practicality. I couldn't go to med school because 1, my grades were not that great.
Yeah.
But still good enough. And 2, I couldn't imagine taking on more debt.
Right.
Right. And so I needed to get a job that pays.
Interesting. How was IBM?
Amazing.
Yeah.
if I were to think about like the earliest part of our career, IBM is invested significantly into training and into cultivating talent. And I certainly benefited from that. So initially in consulting, I learned a lot of my current skills through the consulting years. With IBM Watson, I stepped into more of a BD role, business development, and more of a corporate venture investing mode. And that allowed me to understand a lot more about how you evaluate businesses, how you forge partnerships, and how you think about investing from a corporate perspective. And then from there, I transitioned into product management. No product background. And IBM would send you to these boot camps, and they will pay for everything to help you become a good product manager, right? And so I think I've been very fortunate and lucky to get Duke on my side when family stuff was happening.
Absolutely.
And to get IBM on my side just as I was starting in a completely new domain because, I was, again, very academic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. What do you, from your perspective, what are the things that stand out to you that make IBM so successful? Was it like the systems and training, or like what encourages the culture of success, at least in your opinion?
It's the people. I think IBM has built such a groundswell of just fundamentally and genuinely good people who celebrate your success. And that's kind of rare to see, especially nowadays. Yeah. People who are invested in seeing that you go further and, higher, if you will.
How do we get from IBM to where we're at now? Like, why'd you decide to eventually leave IBM?
I was young and naive and impatient.
Yeah.
There was one point in time where I realized that product management in large corporations meant very different compared to product management for a startup. The skills that you exercise are fundamentally different. And so I wanted to figure out a way to roll up my sleeves, right? And instead of relying on others to do what you needed to do, I would do everything. Because I think there was also one point in time where I realized that I wanted to start my own company eventually. And you can't necessarily be in a position to run a business if you don't get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
And so that's what took me from IBM, a very corporate environment, to a couple of startups in healthcare.
Okay. What was that? Was there like a specific moment, or was it something building where you're like, I want to do my own thing and need to figure out the path to get there?
It's a constant navigation, I think. What I realized and learned over the years is if you're hellbound on trying to build a company and you are trying everything you can to come up with a problem, you're not going to be very successful.
Yeah. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, it's like you have a hammer already in hand and you're looking for nails to hit with. It's not a great exercise of ultimately what makes enduring businesses. And now in retrospect, especially with Scale Social, it's usually finding the problem first.
Yeah.
And then you're sort of set on a path to build a company based on the problem you identify. So it's sort of the opposite logic.
Yeah. Yeah, I talk about that a good bit on here. And it's like, even worse is not even finding a problem, just creating a product and not even know what solution there is to solve or who your clientele is. And I feel like a lot of people do that just because they're reaching and they want something.
And I did a lot of that in part also because I was colored by my professional discipline, being a product person. And the biggest mistakes and the most frequent mistakes I constantly made back then was falling in love with the products that I built. Right? I didn't specifically care too much about the users. It's
right.
like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Everyone would love it if I built it. Nope, doesn't work that way.
So I've heard people in the business world saying that if they could give their kids advice and they want to be an entrepreneur, they would tell them to go work for startups. It might not last very long, but being in at the ground floor and learning what you can in the beginning is going to be invaluable. Was that your experience with it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a 2.5-year-old son. And so I would give the same advice to him. Go work for someone, do the dirty work, do the hard work.
Yeah. How was the startup experience? You said you worked for 2 startups? Mm-hmm. How was that experience?
Yeah, so one of them is a company called Pager Health. So we were in the very early days of building telemedicine platforms for insurance companies, Blue Cross, Blue Shields of name your state.
Yeah.
And I think they were Series B at the time when I joined. So relatively mature as a startup company. Great experience. Great team that I had an opportunity to work with. My tenure with them was actually cut short because my wife, we married, and wife got a job, dream job in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And so she's like, "Are you coming?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I'll be coming to Hong Kong without a job." And so from Pager, I then joined a genetic testing startup company called Prenetics in Hong Kong.
Okay.
I was very much aligned to digital health and what was happening in healthcare, the digitization and how technology is influencing healthcare experiences. And so I was looking for healthcare startups in Hong Kong. Turns out there were virtually no healthcare startups in Hong Kong because the systems there are extremely efficient.
Okay.
And this is a funny story because when I first landed, I got the job. CEO took me to a bar in Lan Kwai Fong, which is like the bar area in Hong Kong. First night, he had this like massive champagne bottle to celebrate. Well, not for me, but like just generally speaking,
Sure.
like, oh, it's a company event. I got completely like slammed that night where I ended up in the ER the next
Oh
day.
no.
And the first thought that came across my mind is, shit, this is going to be very costly because I have no health insurance. I don't even really have a Hong Kong identity at that point in time.
Yeah.
I'm just a foreigner, like a tourist, right? Guess what? It cost me less than 1,000 Hong Kong dollars, which is equivalent to about 150 US dollars for the entire night of stay in the ER in Hong Kong.
Wow.
And then you realize, oh, maybe that's why they don't really need digital innovation.
Yeah.
Because the system works.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a whole nother topic there.
Oh, yes.
So how was it, if you're on a path and all of a sudden it's disrupted and you go, like, how was your mindset going from here to Hong Kong and knowing that you had to kind of start over, not start over, but shift direction?
It was actually pretty exciting for me because, you know, after I left corporate, you're sort of saying goodbye to a very comfortable lifestyle. And I was pretty determined to just learn as much as I can in as short amount of a time as I can.
Okay.
And not on a superficial level, right? Not to say I did this thing and so I checked the box, but really diving into like, okay, well, in this particular industry or in this particular problem that we're trying to solve, what made it so difficult? Yeah, I think this is where the sort of the engineering mindset comes into play, right? So what is actually the crux of the problem? And over the years, especially in a startup environment, I realized that we're actually really just good practitioners of the scientific method. So it's crazy. Like you learn about the scientific method in elementary school, right? And you do like science projects. As it turns out, that's how we now see the world, right? Like a startup is really just a repeated exercise or a systematic exercise of that process. You have a hypothesis, you design an experiment, you run it, you collect data, and it's probably going to tell you you're wrong.
Yep.
And then you go back and you redesign, and you just keep repeating that process over until you get something right. And so if you think about this whole notion of a small business or a startup in that lens, then there's a lot less of the ego.
Yeah.
Right? You sort of take a back seat and you're like, okay, well, I'm just a scientific sort of experimenter.
Yep.
And it really opens up your realm of possibilities from there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I know I've done it before where I get attached to what I'm doing, but once I learned how to be fluid and everything's going to keep changing but you can't just wait for change to happen. You got to continue to know what's going on in your realm and try and play with it, move things around, shift stuff, try different things, pricing, everything. Everything's constantly changing. Yeah. But yeah, I think taking the ego out of it's a huge thing. So how long were you in Hong Kong?
3.5, almost 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I had the chance to be with Prenetics in the very early days. The company eventually IPO'd. And then I also got a chance to join our client. So Prenetics had many clients who are life insurance companies.
Right.
And so they saw the work that I was doing at Prenetics, and they're like, hey, why don't you come over and help us build a digital platform for our client base? And so that took me from, I was still in Hong Kong, but we then got to build an entire innovation hub out of Shenzhen.
Okay.
And that was a really cool experience. It's almost as though you're starting a startup, but with the support and the backing of a mothership that's like a publicly listed company. And so that was really, really cool.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So then how'd you get from Hong Kong back here again?
So my wife, Chen, got her green card approved.
Okay.
And so it was forced. So the US government says, hey, here's your green card. You better be back in 6 months.
Okay.
Or you're going to give it up. And so I really enjoyed my time at Prudential. And so I had to go to the CEO and say, sorry, like I need to head back.
Yeah.
And we took a while to decide like where we want to be. And we knew that we wanted to be back here to start a family. And so we thought about, okay, all the big cities that we've lived in, no, we don't want that. And so we picked Raleigh in part because of my Duke experience and influence, but also in part because it is one of the most family-oriented locations. Yeah. Without losing on what's like happening.
Yeah. Plus all the industry here. You got the medical and, you know, technology, a little bit of everything here.
Yeah. And growing up in the South, I've always really treasured this Southern hospitality piece. Yeah. People are just genuinely more grounded here. And that's what life should be.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I'm here. How'd your wife feel about having to give up her dream job in Hong Kong?
She got burnt out.
Okay.
She's so a little bit more on that. She's a mergers and acquisitions lawyer. Okay. So she helps companies, especially large companies or private equity companies, buy and sell companies. True. And her clients back then were like Alibaba, Ant Financial, KKR. And so extremely demanding. And it was tough for me because there are many weeks on end where I would wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning and look around and she's not home. Oh. So people like to say investment banker hours are really bad. The M&A lawyers are on the receiving end of those investment bankers. So now imagine what that's like. So yeah, we came back and she's much happier now.
Okay, good. Did you come back and start your own business here right away, or did you find another job?
We initially had this dream of building a schoolie.
Okay.
So this is before Felix. We're like, okay, we don't have kids. We had this like whole thing about FIRE, financial independence, retire early. Yeah. And we saved up enough money to FIRE. And so we're like, okay, let's FIRE. And we were looking at these like retired old school buses from Chapel Hill. And that was our plan. Okay. Until we realized that we have no health insurance. That wasn't a problem in Hong Kong. And so we're like, okay, well, what do we do? Like, do we go and buy health insurance? And then having a kid really became a thing. And so we put that plan to rest. So Chen went back to a local law firm, Wyrick Robbins, great firm. I went back to CVS Health. And I joined what they call a new business unit sort of thing. And then also in part partnerships and strategic M&A. And then from there, I also had a chance to join Moderna. So biopharma, vaccine.
Okay. So you went in the medical field. You said which company? I'm sorry.
Moderna.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were you doing for them?
Channel partnerships.
Okay.
Yeah. So imagine getting the vaccines to all the various distribution partners, CVS being one of them.
Right. So is that still more of like a sales role, or what's that?
It's more strategic in nature. So the questions we were asking at that point in time was, how do we make sure that our partners are adequately stocked with our products? And there's a lot more nuances in it because there's a lot more regulation around what you can promote versus not promote. right? Used to be that you, as a pharma salesperson, you would take a doctor to a steak dinner.
Sure.
Right? It's a conflict of interest. It's not possible nowadays.
Yeah.
And so, given all the regulation and the oversight around how the industry works, we have to really think about the value proposition and how our products could fundamentally benefit not just our partners, but also the end consumers. And it's a dream come true for me because my time at Duke, my senior year thesis was actually on mRNA delivery.
Okay.
And I had thought at that point in time that the field, it would take another 20 years for the field to mature. Well, Moderna made it happen. And so it's sort of like a full circle kind of thing for me.
Interesting. So you've done a little bit of everything. You've been
I've been around a little bit.
All right.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and you're in a whole different world than I've never been in the corporate world, so it's like everything you're talking about. I'm starting to pick on bits and pieces of it and like trying to understand it. So no, this is awesome. Where'd you go from there?
So the dumpling business happened
at
that time because corporate jobs are great because you have work-life balance. My mom at that point in time decided to retire. And she's had enough of this whole restaurant thing. And we're so happy for her. We're like, oh my gosh, finally, you can go travel the world. You can go knitting.
Yeah.
But like within the first 2 to 3 months of her retirement, I realized that like her whole energy level shifted. She wasn't doing well mentally. She wasn't doing well physically. And so we're like, okay, well, I guess immigrant parents just don't retire.
Yeah.
They're so used to working really hard all the time that when you say, okay, you need to stop, something breaks. And so we're like, okay, why don't we get you busy? We'll just keep you busy.
Yeah.
And Felix, this is before Felix, my son, was born. And so she used to give us these handmade dumplings. Like we get weekly shipments because Chen and I are both very busy with like meetings all day. And so our lunch period is like, we both work from home too. So lunch is like super short. And so we would cook up these dumplings and then we will share them with the neighbors.
Yeah.
And our neighbors like loved it so much. They're like, oh, you need to sell it. And we're like, well, I don't know. It's weird. And too, I don't know if people really can appreciate like homemade dumplings or handmade dumplings. And besides, you can buy them at Costco or whatever, right? But they insisted. And so we ended up building a website on Shopify. Great platform if you're looking to build an e-commerce business. And it was a small investment because we didn't need to rent or get a physical space.
Right.
And the whole way this business worked is we literally would just have a website and our customers would place orders Monday through Friday. We'll have a cutoff at 9 p.m. Eastern on Friday. And then we count up all the inventory. And then on Saturday, every single Saturday, I would drive anywhere between 150 to 200 miles all across the RTP area to deliver these packets of dumplings to people's doors.
Interesting.
Yep. And they're frozen raw.
Okay.
So they're not cooked, right? And you have to cook it yourself. And so temperature control became a big issue. So we had to manage that. We needed to make sure that customers are home to receive the orders. And if they're not home, they better have a cooler outside, right? And so this whole thing evolved over time. And by the time we exited and sold the business, we had about 1,000 customers locally. And Wake Forest was actually one of our strongest home bases in terms of customers.
Interesting.
Yeah, you remember like delivering to the holding village a lot?
Yeah. Did you guys rent a commercial kitchen space or did you get your kitchen certified?
This is like the entrepreneur experience. We worked out of the home kitchen until NCDA knocked on the door one day and they're like, I appreciate the fact that you're trying to build a business and the dumplings I'm sure are amazing, but this is illegal.
Yeah.
And so we actually then worked with both the NCDA and the local health department, and also on top of that, a commercial kitchen to move our operation into that.
Okay.
But it wasn't like, hey, we started the business because everything grew so fast, so organically. We didn't think too much about, okay, well, everything needs to be like done properly.
Right.
Right. And so we learned a lot. as we went along. And I think this also goes to speak about the culture of supporting entrepreneurship in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Because the NCDA could very well come by and say, okay, you need to shut everything down
now
today.
Yep.
They didn't do that. And that's what got me to really think about, okay, if this is how the state is operating and they're exercising great judgment, right? You're really counting on the judgment of the individuals who are enforcing the policies. And they're working with you to make it work.
Yeah.
This is a state worth investing in.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people look at, you can go into any industry, they look at inspectors as, a pain in the butt or somebody that's, making them do things a certain way, but they're a resource. Like if you go to them, that's one thing I've learned, especially in the building industry, inspectors love to teach. And if you ask questions, they're going to help you, they're going to teach you, and they're going to help get you on the right path. And it's going to be a much easier process because now you're building relationships with the right people instead of it just being somebody that shows up on site and is like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then you get mad and they leave, and that's not building anything. But yeah, inspectors in every field are an absolute resource.
I cannot agree more. In fact, our inspector ended up introducing us to several local supermarkets.
Oh, nice.
Because he was like, hey, look, if you're doing this well and it works for consumers, direct to consumer, then you should seriously think about like maybe selling into Weaver Street Market, into Durham Co-op, into eventually Whole Foods. And we never thought of that, right? And so to your point, they could be extremely valuable resources and champions for your business. And so I think all in all, like just that collaboration and the overall environment to support businesses is really there.
Yeah. I wonder, back to your mom leaving as a chef, because that's such a intense industry to work in, especially for your whole life. But there's gratification in it too. Do you think it was like a loss of purpose?
Yes.
Do you think that's what it was?
Yeah, she didn't know what to do with her time. And I don't know, it's weird because I've always liked to think that you can take up a hobby easily. Turns out that's not the case. It's very difficult for her to say, okay, I'm just gonna like learn this new hobby like from scratch.
Yeah.
And she loves to travel, but there's so much of the family element that's still here, and it makes it very difficult for her to just say, peace out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go travel the world. And so when Felix was born, that's what triggered the sale of the dumpling business. She became very involved as a grandma, and we were the direct beneficiaries of that.
Awesome.
It made our life a whole lot easier.
So she had a new purpose. That's great.
Yes.
Great. Say, I grew up in a small farming community. So like the idea of retirement there, the way I saw it was people would quit their day job and just run their farm full time. That's how they retired there. So like, I've never had this idea that I'm going to be able to retire. Like even when I slow down, my mental health goes down. And it's like, now as I get older, I'm more aware of it. And I try to take steps if I know I'm going to go through a slow period at work to make sure that I'm doing other things to keep myself engaged and keep that purpose. Do you have any of that same drive that you noticed? You said you slowed down for a little bit. How was that?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be one of those people that can like lay on the beach.
Yeah.
I need problems to solve constantly, and it keeps me energized. It gives me a great sense of purpose.
Awesome. So how'd you transition from selling the dumpling business to where you're at? Is there more steps?
Yeah. So the dumpling business was actually what gave me the fundamental insight. So I think going back to the earlier point about like not actively going out to look for problems, the problems kind of surface. And so, I love the saying that we are merely collections of our lived experiences. Like that's what defines who we are.
Yeah.
And so the more of those experiences you have, the more insight you gain from life, generally speaking. And the dumpling business was actually the very first attempt at building a small business from scratch for me. Like my parents have done it many times over, but I never fully appreciated what it means to be a small business owner. And just how tight and strapped everything is. Yeah. Like you are everything and you are everyone. And when shit hits the fan, I'm not sure if you're supposed to curse on this podcast, but you're accountable.
Right.
And your customers, you're on the hook for your customers, right? And so that experience taught me a lot about what it means to be an operator, to be a small business owner. But then more importantly, it got me thinking a lot more about marketing. Marketing is typically seen as a luxury, right? When you think about small business owners, it's like, okay, well, word of mouth is the best form of marketing possible. You do a great job, you have a great product, people will talk about you.
Yep.
And then overall, there's also a great sentiment around supporting local businesses and small businesses. That makes America what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure if you can see that in other countries, but this is like the such a native culture here in the US. But beyond that,
I feel like we got away from it for a little bit, and then COVID really pushed people back to local, and then it's kind of balanced out a little bit from there.
I think so.
Yeah.
And so, like, just from that experience, I started trying to figure out, okay, well, if we need to grow our business, we need to market ourselves. How do we do that? We were a food business, so we worked a lot with local food influencers. And they've been great. We have some really great food influencers here.
Yeah.
In Wake Forest and otherwise. Yet, through those attempts, I realized that influencers' effect is not durable. You get a huge spike.
Yep.
And then usually after a few days, not even a week, you're back to your steady state.
Interesting.
Right? And so what is a recurring, enduring marketing exercise then? To us, it was me communicating with my customers every day.
Yeah.
Right? And we had this thing where, like, we call our sort of delivery the dumpling train. So when the dumpling train is coming by every weekend, I would personally text every single one of our customers to let them know, one, the dumpling train is coming. And two, being an engineer, I had to build in an algorithm that gives them an ETA on where I am.
Okay.
So it would ping my car.
Yeah.
And basically give them a heads up, right? And that allowed us to establish a direct line of communication through text with my customers.
Yeah.
So I know them by name, they know me by name. And that relationship was so fundamentally unique. That's what made it so meaningful. Because doing this business is hard.
Yeah.
On top of my corporate job. But the reason I would get up and do this every single weekend, because profitability wasn't great either. Our dumplings were not very expensive. And that was my mom's belief. She's like, well, it's dumplings. It's not supposed to be expensive.
Yeah.
Right. And again, small business philosophy. But because of that, my customers would text me photos and videos of how they're preparing the dumplings. And we were like, oh my gosh, these are great photos, great videos. Can I use them? And they would say yes. And so I ended up using them as marketing material. And they turn out to be the best, most compelling marketing assets that you can get your hands on because they were genuine.
Yeah, it's real
They
and authentic.
were real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's taken by real people who are actual customers, not paid people.
Right.
We didn't pay them. And so that was sort of the first gem of insight behind how we founded this current company.
Okay.
Around like, okay, well, if that mechanism works, how do you build a system to do this at a larger scale?
Interesting. So let's get into Scale Social AI. Mm-hmm. Tell me more about it. I'm like, I don't even know where to begin with the questions. I'm gonna let you kind of lead us through this part. I'm genuinely curious. I want to learn.
Yeah. So because of those insights, we were betting on a few things. So we can start with like our philosophy, right? ChatGPT just came out. Okay. This is like 2024, 2025. And it wasn't great. We tried a lot of things like, hey, can you help me write a Instagram post? And it would sound super corporate and very AI. And we tried, hey, can you help me generate a image, right? So I can put it on Instagram.
Yeah.
This is my business. This is my logo. Can you help me do that? And we tried a lot of these attempts at figuring out where the boundary is for where AI can perform and where AI fails. And consistently, we realized that AI is just not fundamentally good at delivering authenticity.
Yep.
And so we said, okay, well, if we're going to place a bet, we have to bet that in a world where AI gets better and better over time, the gap between what is real and what is AI generated is going to close.
Yep.
And in such a world, we have to assume that authentic content, and maybe even by extreme measures, imperfect content, becomes more valuable. It's like Picasso,
Yeah.
right? If you're an artist, right? And the reason that art is valued so much is not because it looks perfect. It's because it's done by someone.
Yeah.
And so that was our first bet. The second bet is, okay, well, if we believe in that first piece, wouldn't the world just get flooded with AI stuff? And we see that today.
Yep.
And in such a noisy world, how do you cut through the noise and stand out? Maybe it is just by being intensely human and flawed.
Right.
So people understand who you are, and people understand just how flawed of a human being you are, despite all of the accomplishments that you've done, right? And so that genuine, authentic nature, the persona that comes out, can help you differentiate from all the perfect content and all the perfect images. I was actually just on a Chinese Instagram earlier today, and there's this like AI singer. Oh my gosh, great voice. She looks amazing, all AI generated.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's sort of the world we live in today. And so if you think about Scale Social not as a business, but like as a collection of people who are building technology based on some fundamental beliefs, it's those two things, right? It's that authenticity will matter more and more. It's that we prefer human moments over AI polished, like staged moments.
Yeah. It's funny. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and they were talking about how the internet and the algorithm right now is so focused on negativity, and negativity drives. But I like your point of view better. Maybe it's not the negativity, maybe it's the authenticity. Because like even on podcasts, a lot of them, once they get to a certain level, parts of it almost seem scripted.
Yes.
But then when there's those brief interactions where you can see like, okay, this is who they are, I think those are the moments that blow up. So maybe it's not the negativity, maybe it's the authenticity. That's interesting.
It's very much that. And I remember when you first reached out and you were telling me about the podcast that you're running, it's like, yes, this is it. Yeah. Right? Because I mean, just as we were just walking into the studio, there are many moments of that.
Yeah.
It's like we're here to have a conversation, and it's less of the scripting. It's really of like digging into what matters.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't had to look at my computer once yet, so it's super engaging, and that's how I like it to be. It's evolved. It started off with more of a Q&A, and it's like I'm not getting that much out of it. And then I realized that if I'm genuinely learning, then the audience is going to be learning the same thing that I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
So then the part I struggle with AI, like you said, is you have ChatGPT. I use it religiously and at all different levels, whether I'm doing a general search for something or if I'm having a life conversation. Like I use chat for everything right now, but I can't get the products out of it that I want all the time. And there's every day my email's filling up with people saying like, oh, use this product, use that product. It's all over social media. There's a new product or app launching every day that's supposed to bridge that gap. And I start playing with some of them, but then you have to subscribe to play. And so what gap do you fill exactly?
So I've been on this sort of philosophy of keeping our stack as lean as possible. And so I play around with all the tools, but I only invest into maybe a select few.
Okay.
So similar to you, I'm a heavy ChatGPT user. I very much like what Claude is doing and have a subscription, but the token maximum for Claude was what made it very challenging for me because I'm such a heavy user. For ChatGPT, it doesn't limit my interactions. Yep. Claude does, right? And so that made it very difficult, even though I do prefer a more of an enterprise grade and secure system.
Sure.
The way I work with ChatGPT, or for that matter, my entire team works with ChatGPT, is that we set up dedicated instances and what we call dedicated agents that are particularly good at doing one thing.
Okay.
So for that matter, I have a chief of staff. My chief of staff doesn't have a name yet, but we contemplated on that. And so the chief of staff knows everything about me. It knows all my background, my history, where I came from, all my, sort of childhood things, professional matters, and on top of that, what we're doing with Scale Social.
Okay.
Right. And because of the context, and context is everything, then it is able to produce work and deliverables in a way that it exactly meets my expectations. And if it is a communication that it is helping me draft, for example, to our investors, it sounds like me.
So it's in your tone based off of your whole life. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And making that investment early on was painful, right? Because you're like trying to teach a toddler.
Yeah.
And you have to input so much. But that input was absolutely necessary to get that kind of output that I get today. And that's just one example, right? And we have like operations specialists set up. I recently even set up what we call an M&A specialist. Because as a company, we're contemplating a potential acquisition of another company.
Okay.
Right. And this is the part that blows my wife's mind, because M&A, regardless of the company's size, it's a very long process.
Yeah.
And diligence takes a significant amount of money and time. We were able to work through the business diligence in less than a day.
Interesting.
With the help of AI.
Yeah.
Right. And certainly we have to pressure test all the output from the AI and make sure it's factually correct. That's the most important part. There's no hallucination allowed. Otherwise, this whole deal will not work.
Right.
But just imagine the sheer scale of this. What used to take months reduced down to 24 hours.
That's interesting. And I feel like that's one of the things that's still hard to trust is anything legal. It's like, most of the programs aren't quite there yet. And it's, I can create something and then send it to my attorney, and then he's going to make a bunch of changes and then get it back. But you're saying you're designing something that's going to be as good as or better than a human doing it.
Yes. In fact, the way I see this, and, again, because of my wife's discipline, we are able to have a very technical conversation around how this could work. But the way I see it is I can do so much of that early diligence and get everything in order in a very, very structured format and have that ready for my legal counsel to, 1, validate, 2, pressure test, and 3, sign off.
Yeah.
So it might take me $50,000 or more to do this deal just in legal costs. But with the help of all of that structuring and data processing and all of the preparation ahead of time, my lawyers can get a finalized package and sign off. That probably only cost us a few $1,000s, right? And so the amount of savings we can realize through this exercise can be potentially meaningful.
So you're creating these AI programs, right? Mm-hmm. From scratch, essentially. So, and without getting too technical, are you taking is there like a base AI platform that you're using and then you train that to do what you want it to do? Or are you completely starting from scratch?
So the base is typically GPT or Claude.
Okay.
Right. And so the large language models are intensely good at these exercises. 1, because it is very data driven. And 2, the models that we work with today are very good at looking back. It is somewhat good at potentially telegraphing the future, but again, based on historical data. Yeah. Right? It's not very good at being intensely creative. And so when you think about like the applications and where the models can be best leveraged, I mean, an M&A exercise is an exercise of looking at historical things.
Yep.
Like at the end of the day, you are trying to answer the question of how much is this company worth? And is it worth it? Right. And there's some of the forward-looking things, but that's more a judgment on our part as human beings. But for the deal to go through, all the data comes from historicals.
Interesting. So again, to keep it simple, are you essentially going into ChatGPT and just having an extended conversation with it over a period of time to input all the information into it and then creating its own folder? And now that's its own chat essentially. And every time you go back to that, it's referencing the whole conversation you've had?
Yes. I think that would be a very quick way to get started.
Okay.
Right. So for the audience, if you're contemplating an M&A deal,
right,
you could very well have a conversation with ChatGPT. Now, there are some sensitive information that you want to make sure that you are precluding from the conversation. And I think this is where regulations and legal boundaries get tested and pressure tested a little bit. But at the end of the day, if you're able to build in a more dedicated instance where the data that you input into the model doesn't get trained on, that's the most important part.
Okay.
Right? It's like you are able to download information and do your exercise in a self-contained environment without the data that you were putting into the environment being extracted out for public use.
Okay.
Right. That exchange is important. That then requires you to build a more focused system.
Okay. Interesting. I feel like, 10 years ago, this would be a coding conversation, but it's not anymore.
Yeah, it's not anymore.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. And my Mac Mini is arriving today. And so what I'll be doing is setting up my own open cloud. So it used to be Clawbot, then OpenClaw, and then now it's called Open Cloud.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard about it yet. So it's like one of those very, very popular agentic systems out there. Imagine being able to set up a dedicated instance that basically works for you 24/7. And you can ask it to do anything.
Yeah.
Pay off your credit card bills or whatever it may be. There are a lot of security concerns with that because for the agents to work really well, it will need to tap into virtually your systems.
Right.
Right. And so I'm trying to navigate and again, being a technologist, understand where the boundaries are today and what kind of use cases can be unlocked within the boundaries of what I feel are comfortable.
Yeah. And that's like one of those irrational fears maybe that's stuck with me is like, whatever I put onto any of these AI programs, it's essentially, it can do what it wants with it. And that's public knowledge. So if I put something, if I was going to write a book and did it with chat, now I'd be afraid that somebody was going to steal it or something, and I get that it doesn't work like that, but it's just like knowing that whatever you're putting on there is now public information and it's used all across its platform.
That's right.
Yeah. I think that's where a lot of people's fears come from is not understanding how the information is used. Interesting. Learning a lot. So you said M&A, and do you have any other sectors that you're focused on in your business?
Oh, no. So my business doesn't focus on M&A.
Oh.
Yeah. It's just the fact that as a company, we were evaluating a deal. And so we set up an agent for that.
Just an agent for it. Okay.
It's more of a tool for us.
A tool. All right. So what do you do for like the average small business? Like, how does that process work? Where's the value for like, and maybe, I don't know what size businesses you work for, but like, the average business is under $100,000 a year. Like, what's the value of your business for them?
It's a good point because when we started Scale Social, my mission was to help small business owners do marketing effortlessly, right? And without sacrificing authentic nature of what their narrative sounds like. And so the best way to contextualize the work that we do is we're trying to help you turn your actual customers into influencers. So no, you're not going to have to work out these influencer deals and do this back and forth and whatever. This is particularly prominent in restaurant businesses or in experiential businesses. So if you run a gym or a studio or one of those membership-based businesses, customer reference matters a lot.
Yeah.
And your prospective new customers will be much more likely to trust the words of an actual current customer more so than anyone else.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just the reality of human nature. And so we've built a system to scale that. As it turns out, though, most of our business today is actually enterprise and franchise systems.
Okay.
And here's the practicality of it, though, is that the learnings that I've made as the founder of this business is even though our mission statement is aligned to small businesses, our most ideal customers tend to be larger clients.
Yeah.
In part because they have a much deeper wallet and much better budget.
Yeah.
That's not to say that we won't support small business owners. In fact, again, aligning to our mission, we will be introducing a small business version later on.
But you got to get money coming in first to help develop.
Yeah, it's going to be much more self-serviced. And so the way I think about it is how a lot of small business owners use Canva today to design their flyers. Imagine a version of that, but for marketing.
Interesting.
Video-based marketing.
Yeah. I mean, we're dealing with the same problem here. Our whole mission is around small businesses and helping small business owners, but the ones needing the most help from us right now with like operations, risk management, compliance, that type of stuff, they can't afford to pay for us. So hopefully we'll be able to get this social media to generate in a way where that can help pay for us to go out and help people in the communities and the small business owners. And but the larger businesses have the money. They pay their bills. It's tough. It's tough. It's a tough market to get into, helping small business owners.
It is. And I think a big tension that I'm mitigating, managing right now is how do we fully service the clients, the bigger clients that we have today without sacrificing the original mission, right? Like that tension is real. But as a company, your job and the founder and the owner, your job is to survive.
Yeah.
That's the number one priority. And then number two, then make sure and find a way and a path to realize your dream. And for us, there are 33 million small business owners in this country. There's a market. It's very, very difficult to scale, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we need to be very creative about how we help. And do that at a scale that doesn't require a significant amount of operational lift. Because for our larger clients, we have an onboarding specialist working with them. We have a customer success manager designed and designated for that account.
Yeah.
There's no way we can do that for small business, not at that scale. And so we contemplate a lot about where AI plays a role, where it doesn't play a role. And in the DNA of the company, we realized that if you're customer facing, we do not want you to be replaced by AI. And this is going to be especially prominent when most businesses are looking to optimize and looking for efficiency.
Yeah.
Right. But where do you draw the line, though? So the way I think about it is if you're simply looking for a transactionally based piece of information, then AI can do it.
Sure.
Right? I book a flight ticket. I want to know if I can change my flight. And the system is deterministic. I know exactly what options are available as a system. I know exactly what those prices are. I put it in front of you. But if it's a matter that's more nuanced, you're a restaurant operator. For whatever reason, the marketing that you put out doesn't work, and you need to talk to someone about it. You probably don't want to talk to AI.
No.
Right? You want someone, a human being who can be empathetic to your cause, who's in your corner. And that's where the human nature really shines. Right? And so if anything, it would allow us to be even more human. Right? Where our customer success managers are putting on the hat of an operator. I mean, that's just amazing in my view. Because all the noise and all the low lift sort of tasks are handled by systems.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I guess we're trying to operate on the same philosophy in the consulting world. It's like, especially with small businesses, you get somebody in an office somewhere sending you paperwork saying, start to implement these things. They might look into your finances and get a bird's eye view of what you got going on a daily basis. And for me, it's the experience of going and walking in their shoes for a couple of days, understanding their day to day, and then being able to figure out how to help them implement systems and operations based off of that. And that's, I think, the customer experience has kind of drifted away.
Yeah, to that point, I still have a lot of small business owners that are part of our client roster.
Yeah.
And I still make it a point to fly to them, whether it's California or Texas, wherever they may be. Because the moment you step into the store, you get all of that external context. AI can't see that. AI can't feel that. But the moment you step in as a human being, you kind of get all of that.
Yeah.
And there's also the operator lens, right? I've been in their shoes before. And so you pick up signals very quickly, like what's working, what's not working. And you effectively become a de facto consultant or advisor to the operator. And that trust can't really be easily replaced.
Yeah. Interesting. I know, like, it's the same kind of thing with the podcast. It's like we reach out to people. Most of them want to do a virtual thing, and it's like, I can't do it. I just can't. I haven't been able to bridge that gap to do virtual yet, because I like body language. I like reading. I like letting the conversation go where it's going to, based off of how you're reacting, and maybe not just what your face is saying to me, what your hands are doing, like the way you're moving. And now I know, like, all right, we're heading in the right direction. I can't do that through a computer screen, and it's a little bit limiting, but that's why we have a mobile setup that we're able to go and travel to people and do that. So
that's cool.
Yeah, we haven't made it too far yet. We've been up to Charlotte once, and we were just in Zebulon a couple weeks ago, but we're starting to expand out and try and get further out. And again, now you're in their element too, and kind of seeing what they're doing in their element, and just add something to it.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't even know if I know the right questions to ask, because this is so far outside of my realm. Like, what else can you tell us about what you're doing that we haven't talked about yet?
When we started the business, we had a very simple idea. We wanted to build a widget, essentially, a QR code based widget, right? So you scan a QR code, you pull up your essentially a website on your phone. It's called a web app.
Yeah.
That's a key design decision on our part, because we realize people don't like to download new apps.
Yeah.
It's so much work. And so it needs to work native to how consumers are operating today.
Yeah.
That vision, once realized, we started to understand that there's a bigger opportunity. And the bigger opportunity we see today as a company, and where we're headed to, is what if we become the embedded infrastructure layer for how content is collected, how content is processed, how content is documented, audited, and tracked, and then reimagined in the form of reels and other formats, and then ultimately distributed. That's a lot.
Yeah.
We've been able to do that for the restaurant industry. And we're now experimenting how we can do that in other industries, in biopharma, in experiential venues like Disney, Six Flags. Imagine you're with your family at one of the theme parks, and Disney can pull up their app and nudge you and say, hey, take a moment.
Yeah.
Right? Take a short form video with your family having a great time. In exchange, if we really like that video, and please let us know if you would allow us to use that video. But if you give us that permission, I'll give you a fast pass to the next ride. So then it becomes a much more embedded part of the experience. It feels less like a transaction.
Yeah.
Right. And what we started to realize is, well, if this thing can really work, we can help brands, no matter how big or small, build their home base, their super fans. And it's less into technology. It's actually more in the humanity of how this thing can be amplified. Because if you realize that you're a fan of a local business, and your friends kind of get that, naturally you'll see a lift in your business. But it's through the engagement and those conversations and interactions that's enabled by technology, but not driven by technology, right?
Yeah.
And so our philosophy is more of how do we enable and support, where technology is not the center stage, right? It's really giving an opportunity for those dialogues to happen more organically, naturally. And certainly the content that we collect, we can make really good use for. And so analogy I would draw here is, I don't know if small business owners use Stripe a lot.
Right.
Stripe is a payment processing layer. If you use Square, if you use Toast, you use all of these POS systems, you'll likely understand what Stripe does. But the analogy I draw here is just like how Stripe processes ACH, bank transfers, and sort of credit card payments. Scale Social can be that, but for authentic content.
Interesting. I like understanding things on a basic level or something that I can relate to. And my daughter does travel and volleyball. And when we go to these tournaments, there will be random QR codes set up in the lobby for the girls in between games. And then they scan it, they do a TikTok dance.
Yes.
And then now that's being uploaded from the tournament, and whoever's running the tournament, it's that kind of similar thing, I guess.
That's exactly right. And in fact, we recently just powered up one of Duke's events. They do the alumni basketball game watching parties, and there's a charity component involved, fundraising. And so imagine hundreds of those moments being collected at one spot, right? Now, when Duke does these alumni events, it's all across the country. Imagine, because the game happens simultaneously, right? Yeah. And so imagine 50 cities being lit up, where those collective moments sort of all add up to a bigger sort of collection of what the community looks like.
Interesting. So how could, like, say we're not at the level yet where we're ready to reach out to you, like what steps could we be taking as a small business to kind of implement that ourselves?
I would start with just a form of communication with your actual customers. That's where I started with the dumpling business, right? And so if you could text your customers on a one-to-one basis, or if you could email them, right? Or a way to communicate with them, see if they would be interested in working with you, right? If your product is highly visual in nature, so think about a hair salon or a nail salon. I mean, just one of those videos from your customers speak volumes.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't need to scale. I mean, the whole notion of a system that works is that it needs to work first. And so, I would encourage folks to just do this manually today. And if it works, then you can think about either building a system or finding a system, or you can reach out to us.
I guess it's interesting. It all makes sense because like reviews used to be like the driving force behind a business.
Right now it's so noisy.
It is. There's so many of them, and there's so many fake ones and angry ones, and it's like you don't even know where to begin. There's 5,000 reviews. How do you go through that? But now you're talking about authenticity, look, touch, feel, and through a video, and now it's more real, and that can drive it. It all makes sense.
Did you know? And I learned this through my restaurant client, actually. There's a whole gray industry around that, where I think you can pay some company $50 to either make a review or take a review down.
Yeah. There's whole Reddit threads on it. You can go, and not only that, like people can bomb businesses with bad reviews.
Yes.
And it doesn't cost that much. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so in a world where those sort of what used to be trusted as a signal is now just all noise.
Yeah.
What is the next territory or domain where you can stand out?
So what's the process for working with your company or you? They reach out to you, and can you take us through that process a little bit?
Mm-hmm. So typically speaking, and I think I have to tailor this conversation to small business owners, they can reach out to us directly. We have a centralized sort of hello email. So it's a hello@scalesocialai.com. And just let us know who you are. Or you can go to our website, getsocialscale.com. And there's a contact us form, right? So you can just submit an inquiry. We have a sales team that's in place to take in all of the inquiries, no matter what kind. Our goal is here to help. And so, I think the initial part of the conversation is one, understanding the business context. Because in marketing, context is everything, right? We're not here to just sell you a piece of software. Our customer success managers certainly are not in a position to just say, hey, set this up and it will magically work. That's just not how business operates. And so for us, it's a matter of understanding the business context and then figuring out whether we are the right solution for what you need.
Yeah.
And that's really the first step. Now, let's say we assume that there's something there. We can work with you. Then we would move forward, sign a contract. And beyond that, we have a 14-day onboarding period where we charge you nothing. Again, we adopted this because, if I'm an operator, I wouldn't want to be charged before the system's running.
Sure.
And so we make that investment as a company into those 14 days to get you set up so you are going to be successful. Okay. Right. And then post those 14 days, we have a formal launch, and then the system will start to operate on its own.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. We appreciate everybody for watching. We appreciate the growth that we're seeing. We're getting amazing guests. We still need to get a little bit more reach to keep this momentum going. So help us out. Drop a comment, like, follow, subscribe, share if you love the content. Help us continuing to get amazing guests with amazing stories and help those stories get around the world like they should be. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. So, after they onboard, what's the support like? And how do you guys charge for support, or is there like a period of time where you help them and then after that they have to pay for updates? Like, that's the stuff that I don't understand about.
Yep. So philosophy, again, founded the business not to do gotchas. And so there's no additional cost. Support is baked in. We will do whatever it takes to make you successful. And if we find a signal that it's not working, we will also let you know. Yeah. Right. And so typically speaking, with small business owners, we would work with them for 3 months in a pilot setting. Does it work? Is it helpful? And if it doesn't work and isn't helpful, we have monthly check-ins to figure out what's missing. Because, and I think we would be sort of lying to ourselves if we believe that whatever system you end up buying, it's a silver bullet to something. Yeah. It never works that way. When you put a system to be pressure tested in the real world, there's always going to be something that's missing. Right. And so typically that gets into the operational details of the business. So I'll give you a really concrete example. Some of our best restaurant performers, they actually have taken the time in having the store manager or the general manager train all of the staff in engaging with their diners and prompt the QR code when they come and visit. It becomes a fun, interesting activity, and everyone's in a very good spirit about it. Yeah. And then it became such a thing for them that everyone starts talking about it. So then the word of mouth kind of like works beyond the technology, right? These are really good operators. They just fundamentally understand it's not a system that I just turn on and work. I need to invest some time into it too. Yeah. Our worst performing, and eventually those clients have left us, are the ones who believe that, okay, well, here's a QR code. I put it all across the table. Great. And I forget about it. The staff isn't engaging. Nobody pays any attention to it. And it feels very transactional, right? And so naturally, you don't collect a lot of great content. Yeah. Right? And so as businesses learn how to engage with the system, there's a whole series of learnings and playbook that gets derived from those interactions and experiences. And they kind of get to keep that. Right? And because most of our clients are multi-location, they have hundreds of locations, then it's about being able to do something that works really well at some of their locations. And then if you're in the owner mindset, then you must be thinking, how do I copy and paste this? Yeah. So it becomes an SOP. And it helps the business level up too. Suddenly, their staff are way more engaging. Yeah. They're striking up conversations with guests. right? So that's just a very concrete example as to the technology is the technology, but how you interact with it and how you engage with it can be fundamentally different depending on who you are and what you believe in.
Yeah, you're creating a tool, and a tool's just a tool. Unless you get trained on how to use that tool properly and you utilize it, it has no value.
That's right.
Okay. And then it sounds like you're making engaging with the business part of the experience, opposed to a chore afterwards. Like, oh, if you enjoyed your experience, go fill out this review.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You know,
how many people do that? and it's important for us to sort of preemptively engage again in a restaurant setting. When the dishes come, right? You kind of want that moment.
Yeah.
As opposed to I finished everything. Here's an empty dish.
Yeah. Absolutely. So for a small business owner, it's super intimidating to, especially before I even started messing with AI, to go on and like try and find resources or find the right path to get the tools you need. And where it led me was, I needed to automate one of our systems. And in my mind, it's like, all right, everybody's using AI. So I start looking for, development companies, software development companies. And with that, again, this was before I used chat or anything. So I'm like just trying to research my way through it and reach out to people. And I end up with linking up with an AI developer or a software developer. And like the process was so intimidating, but like I flew to their state where they were, met with them.
Wow.
And I didn't feel like they had a good understanding of what we actually needed, that they were just trying to take what we were saying and develop around that very quickly. And like, it felt like this program was getting pushed on me. And I was like, I feel like I'm going to get this program dumped on me or the software dumped on me, and it's not going to do what we want. And then I'm going to lose the support. And I ended up abandoning the whole thing. And now we're at a point where we're looking at other larger systems that already exist that we're now initiating and going to be able to utilize them and their features that already happen. What are the things that, I guess the question is like, what are the things that I should be looking for if I'm looking to implement AI or I'm reaching out to other people? Because there's businesses popping up every day. And the way I got in contact with this one, because I like face-to-face, so I was looking for somebody in North Carolina. Well, they had a remote office in North Carolina, which they didn't actually have any employees here. So now I'm flying down to Florida to meet their team. And it didn't feel real or authentic. And I just ran away from the situation.
I can sort of share my personal experience because I think I experience that almost every other day. I look at our company and what we need. And so you, as a business owner, you're constantly in this buy versus build. Partner is less relevant. And so do I buy a solution today or do I build it, right?
Right.
And what's the cost time-wise and money-wise? What we ended up doing at Scale Social is we got our entire team to build with this platform called Lovable. It's a European company. And think of it almost as though it is your AI developer, where you are really building something with it through just natural conversation. I was a very early user of Lovable before they became big. And I remember being on it and paying for a month and then just disengaging completely. Where it is today versus where it used to be is just night and day difference.
Okay.
And so case in point, we've done a few things. One, I get in a lot of client calls, client meetings. And so in a sales motion, you are recording all of the client conversations because you want the transcript, you have a note taker, right? Yep. And so after the call's done, the transcript is generated. Well, in a typical day without AI, I would need to go through the transcript. There are highlights, notes, and then I need to figure out and do research on the target company. I either do it before the call, and I usually do, but it's not fully contextualized. But now you just had that conversation, you understand it more deeply, then you would do some more research, right? And figure out what we call opportunity snapshot. Where is the opportunity? How can we help? And that research takes a long time, even with AI. because you have to figure out the right questions to ask, right? And then once you have the opportunity to contextualize, you need to figure out, okay, well, do I put together a proposal? What's the next step here? How do I build a proposal? Used to be that you will pull up some template, PowerPoint template,
Right.
and you start filling things in. But it's just sounds so disingenuous because every business and every brand is so unique and different. And so that whole entire process takes days. What we now do, so that's the before. After, we take the transcript, we feed it into an AI agent that does all of the research for you, creates the Apple opportunity snapshot, creates the proposal and the draft. And then we can feed all of that into Lovable. And what Lovable is able to do is to take all of that and spin up entirely, essentially a website that looks like a formalized proposal that is on brand. So it looks like your brand. And it's got the partner and the opportunity company's brand on it as well. And it's tailored for that conversation. So every proposal looks different. It looks like it's custom built for that conversation.
Okay.
And that process takes 10 minutes.
Right.
Right. And so the before and after is just so drastically more efficient that this became a real use case for us. So that's one example. Another example would be we do these weekly sales recap. So my head of enterprise partnerships will send out emails saying, hey, this is what we've done this week. Here's where we are, what our pipeline looks like. And for the entire leadership team, we needed to understand like where the signal is coming from very quickly. And so we said, okay, well, let's build a sales dashboard. I need to visualize my sales figures, right? And we're able to just do that in Lovable in like, again, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And so imagine like that, if we wanted, so first of all, did we think it was significant and painful enough of a point for us to hire a dedicated developer and pay them like $20,000 or $50,000 to do that?
Right.
No. And so we probably would have put it in the back burner. But now with Lovable, I think we pay like $100 per month.
Right.
Like I'm able to spin up these very unique, dedicated tools and apps, like literally overnight, and help us fill our own needs as a business. Now I have to imagine if you want to productize that, you could very well do that.
Yeah.
And so it's very good for prototyping. It's very good for these widgets. But if you want to build a business beyond that, sure, you'll probably have to hire an actual developer. But nothing's stopping anyone nowadays from testing your idea.
Yeah.
Because you can build something that functionally works.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest point for me, and like the final decision to like, this is the direction we're going, was I didn't want to develop a software and then be responsible for selling it to try and generate income. But just the initial investment, you're talking about $60,000. And it's like, now it's not making quite as much sense. Yeah, that was kind of my deciding point.
Well, it used to be that software development onshore. I mean, this is the price of development onshore, essentially.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole wave of offshoring, right? So you hire a team in India or wherever. And now what's really interesting is you're seeing those teams getting sidelined by AI tools.
Right.
Right? Because then you don't have to deal with people. You're dealing with deterministic systems. There's no one complaining.
Yeah.
Right? And you're able to do that. And then let's say you pressure test a prototype and it works and you want it to be something bigger. Then there's this whole like onshore piece, right? And so again, like you're not going to hire someone offshore to do that. That can take you to the next level. And so it's interesting to see how labor markets are affected by these shifts.
Yeah. AI question or a business building question in your industry. It's like all the big business influencers on social media, like they all pretty much sync up on, if you're a young kid or a teenager and you want to be a business owner, then start learning AI now. And you don't need to go to school. You just start messing with the programs and figure out what works, what doesn't, and then start selling automation. Where do you fall on that?
I don't think it's that easy. I think it's very optimistic, right? I think about this because, again, my son is 2.5. The world that he is going to see once he comes of age is going to be so different from the way we see the world now.
Yeah.
And so I kind of have to think about what that world might look like for his sake and otherwise. I think what the AI tools have done is it intrinsically introduced sort of a skills gap and a judgment gap. And so if you look at where the world is today, big companies are not investing in junior talent because they have AI tools that are probably better, faster, cheaper, and less complexity because they're not human beings, right?
Yeah.
And so, but when you think about this on a systems level, like if you think about the entire US market, labor market, when companies are under investing in junior talent, you play this timeline out for 10 years, you're not going to have mid-level and or potentially senior level talent who can exercise really good judgment on your behalf.
Yeah.
Now, if you envision a world where human beings are a non-factor in the future economy, everything's done by AI, okay, maybe. But I would hate to sort of envision that kind of world, right? Like I'd like to believe that we are creating a world where human beings and AI systems are working in collaboration.
Yeah.
And so then if that has to be true, there needs to be investment into junior talent. So I haven't shared this a lot publicly, but I run a nonprofit locally here called the Seed List in partnership with a Duke professor. Her name's Amanda. And moving forward, she's going to be the sole person running this nonprofit.
Awesome.
And the whole reason as to how this came about is because of that realization. And so we said, you know what? What if we start a nonprofit that fundamentally invests in the future talent? These will be AI native people, right? An entire generation of folks who are young, ambitious, who have passion, and who knows how to work with AI tools.
Yeah.
But how do we put them in an environment where they can learn, exercise context, and get the skills necessary to be in a position in the future where they can exercise great judgment? That's what the systems need. So when you have the conversation with ChatGPT, you're constantly exercise judgment in that conversation.
All right.
Because AI tools will tell you what you wanted to hear or what you needed to hear. But AI tool is not going to be in a position to question your judgment.
Right.
You own that. And so I see that gap. And if anything, I actually think small business owners are really going to be the driving force in cultivating that generation.
Some good insight. Yeah, because everything's so generic on social media. It seems like, oh, it's easy to do this stuff.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So one thing that, like you just said, you started this nonprofit with a professor from Duke, which is where you went to school. I was brought up like, I'll go to school, get an education, but more in the blue collar fields. And so like I've always steered away from education. I've been one that grew up like hard work, grab a shovel, grab a hammer. I can make anything. I can do anything. I can make money. And now that I started to get older, I was like, that's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So now this opportunity to come in and sit down with people on the other side of that. And I'm seeing both sides, and I'm seeing how people process stuff different from the education side and the more, blue collar side coming up. And it's interesting. And one thing that I never really thought about that everybody keeps talking about that's been more your path is the relationships they made during their university experience and like how that propelled them and how they still have those relationships, whether it's their best friends that they've been with since then, or it's colleagues that they've partnered up with for different projects. And like, that's just something that, when people are telling you, oh, you don't need college, you don't need a degree now, but where do you get those relationships? Because when I'm out in the field working and learning, getting my education with a shovel, everybody's at the same level as me. there might be one supervisor that's been doing it longer, but he's still doing the same job. Whereas in the university path, you're surrounded by people that are vastly different than you. Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong, but I do joke with my wife sometimes, where we wanted Felix to play a lot of Super Mario games. We do believe that the future for blue collar businesses and or businesses where that human input is critical. So if you're an electrician, your judgment is critical to the success of your business. Because your judgment gets passed to other technicians that you deploy into the field as well.
Yeah.
Right? They sort of carry your book and your brand.
Yep.
And you're liable for all of that. And so I actually think blue collar jobs are going to be even more important moving forward.
Sure.
I mean, AI and robots, humanoid robots, because that's all the rage nowadays. They don't have enough real world data sets to be deployed in that capacity. We're not going to be able to see a humanoid robot fixing your pipes or fixing your electrical work soon.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say when, but 5-10 years at least. I have a good friend who's just started a robotics company, and they are in the laundry business. Makes sense. If you want something stationary that folds laundry for you 24/7, great.
Yeah.
Right. That I can believe, because the data set context, and this gets a little bit more technical, but imagine all the inputs that you see. You literally, if you're the robot, you're literally seeing a table in front of you and pieces of clothing. That's a very finite, controlled environment.
Right.
Right? But now, if you're thinking about someone else's home, every single person's home looks different. If you're thinking about electrical problems, you probably might have thousands of possibilities out there. So it's not that AI and robotic systems are incapable of dealing with that. It's the fact that they don't have enough input in terms of data sets to be able to do that well.
That makes sense.
And so if I were to put my money in something, it would be in electrical work. So I don't know, electricians,
Yeah.
plumbers, HVAC technicians, construction. If you're a general contractor, you're going to have a really, really great business.
Yeah.
Right? And that business will probably explode in valuation.
Makes sense. That's why all the big money around the country is now buying up all
They're rolling
these.
up.
Yeah.
And their thesis, and I know quite a few folks who are in private equity, but imagine being able to go around and offer a ridiculous price for a HVAC company that has 5 technicians out in the field.
Yeah.
Buy them up and repeat that 50 times. And suddenly you have a massive portfolio of HVAC businesses.
Yep.
You roll them up, bundle them, and then you figure out the right systems.
Yep.
And suddenly that price becomes 5-10 times of what they paid.
Yeah.
It's a great exercise of capitalism, but it is fundamentally detrimental for small businesses.
Yeah. 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 Because it's even happening. I mean, it's happening everywhere. It's happening around here. People I know get multiple offers constantly. But yeah. Interesting. Future's so uncertain.
I would start an HVAC business. That sounds great. My dad is actually a retired HVAC technician.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Great business.
How many employees do you have?
14.
And they're all remote?
5 in Raleigh, Durham, and then 9 remote.
Okay. So you don't have like a office, do you? Or
We just moved into a new office.
did you?
It's right by Crabtree Valley Mall.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's where I get curious about, like, especially in the technology industry where everything's done through computers anyway, is there still value add in having an office space and seeing each other face to face?
Yeah, I think building that culture, camaraderie, being able to grab a drink after work, I think that still matters a lot.
Yeah.
The other thing is most of our team members, they're not like in their 20s. We're actually like an older team, generally speaking. We have kids, we have families.
Yeah.
And we kind of built this into the DNA. Like when you talk to Silicon Valley startups, right? Everyone's like in their teens, 20s. Like you're trending towards younger and younger because they have nothing to lose. They can work 24/7, right?
Right.
And if you're a VC, you're looking at that. You're like, okay, well, I can like make them work really hard. But because of where I am with the stage of my life, I didn't want to build a company where everyone's just working constantly. If anything, like with the AI tools, everyone should be working less. I mean, what's the point then, right?
Yeah.
And so my philosophy and my belief here is if we are able to build a business that generates outsized returns for our investors, yet at the same time, my employees, my team members are working less and less over time. So they have more time for family, for their pets, go travel.
Yeah.
Then that would be a tremendous success.
That's awesome. All right. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to cover before we go into some rapid fire questions?
I really enjoyed the conversation.
I did too.
Yeah, it's been fun.
You got my gears turning for sure. What's your favorite business book?
Oh, I have quite a few. The Hard Thing About Hard Things was really good for me. It talks about Andreessen Horowitz and the early days. Principles, also very good. Ray Dalio. But my favorite is actually Sun Tzu's Art of War.
Okay.
And most people think about it, they're like, wait, that's a business book? It's actually really good. It's about tactical warfare. And a business is warfare.
Yeah.
Right? You're trying to survive. You're trying to outcompete your competitors. You're trying to cut through the noise. And so it gets into, if you're weak, you don't challenge the strong. You find a different way to compete. Right? It gets in a lot into how businesses should be shaped in a more militaristic sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that a lot from a lot of people.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It must be true.
It must be true. Tool you can't live without.
Sorry?
A tool you can't live without.
Oh, gosh. These days, definitely will be ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing founders waste money on.
Marketing.
One thing they should invest more in.
People.
Awesome. Tell us again where people can find you, contact you, any information you want to put out into the universe.
Yeah, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So if you search Runbin Dong, that's RUNBIN DONG, you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can shoot us an email, hello@scalesocialai.com.
Awesome. And then we end every episode the same way. You kind of already answered it, but we're going to revisit it. And the reason I do this is because once I figured out my definition, it changed how I live my life, run my business, everything. How do you define success?
Oh, gosh. There was a really good quote that I'm still subscribed to. I can't repeat it, though. So I'm trying my best. I think it's an Emerson quote.
Okay.
Success is not defined by, sort of like how much, professional or monetary sort of achievements you're able to achieve, but rather by how many lives you've touched, by whether you've left behind a healthy child, a happy, optimistic, healthy child, or by the fact that someone's able to breathe just a little bit better because you existed.
Awesome.
Something like that. It's way more poetic than this.
We get the gist.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. That's a great way to end it. We appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.